One thing we know about samurais is they don't like stealth. They see assassination as cowardice. They don't do pakawa because trust me, no one is doing pakawa in this heavy armor. Why is there a samurai in a game of stealth? It's either Ubisoft bought fake reviews or the game is actually that good. The Wikipedia page has just been going through like a massive war zone. Except if these people have like PhD in Japanese history. This is positivity. Assassin's game set in Africa, but the main character was Japanese. As an African game developer, I would be pissed as a Miyamoto Musashi, Saito Hajime, why Yasuke? When in reality, not all samurais are warriors. Was Yasuke a samurai? And the answer is... I want us to do something. Let me play devil's advocate and just assume that indeed, yes, Yasuke was the best decision for Ubisoft. So let's just assume that this isn't work. This isn't DEI. This isn't sweet baby INC at work or whatever. Let's just assume. Let's just give them the benefit of the doubt and let me play devil's advocate. This is because I am also a philosopher in my finals and we were taught to analyze things objectively and try to see things from a more deeper and clearer picture. So as a devil's advocate, because I came prepared for you guys today, I have prepared three solid evidence to prove to you guys that indeed Yasuke was the best character choice for Ubisoft. So the first evidence I want to use to prove that indeed Yasuke was the best decision by Ubisoft is for us to analyze the historical facts of Yasuke. So like things like, did he really exist? Was he actually a samurai, or is Ubisoft just trying to make us think that a normal mere servant was a samurai when indeed he wasn't? Also, I want to debunk the biggest myth about samurai, and I don't think I've seen this in any video, that all samurais are warriors, when in reality not all samurais are warriors. Because even William Adams, one of the first Englishmen to become a samurai, he wasn't a warrior in like the traditional sense of like big sword, katanas. Second, I want us to analyze previous Assassin's Creed game. In particular, I want us to analyze Assassin's Creed 1 and Assassin's Creed Odyssey so that we can see how the game has evolved over time. Because even though yes, sure, the series did start from being this guy with the white hoodie, always in the shadows, with stealth being the main mechanic, it later evolved to be way more than just a game of stealth. Third, I want us to analyze game reviews. This one really shocked me, because even after all the controversies, the disapprovals of gamers, the game still has a very positive review on Steam and Epic Games. How? It's either Ubisoft bought fake reviews or the game is actually that good. Finally, I'm just going to debunk all the three evidences that I'm going to be stating as a devil's advocate with literally just one question. But before I go into these three evidence, I want to challenge all of you with one question. Yes, you all, I want to challenge all of you to one question. And you know what? I'll put a bet out there that if you can answer this question truly without ending up supporting Ubisoft that they made the best decision, then you know what? Just click off this video. Like, don't just watch this video again, and just know that you were right and I was wrong, and Ubisoft actually made the worst decision in gaming history. So are you ready? Here it comes. How would you promote an idea? Okay, so for example, let's say we have this big ideology, this big idea that we want to promote, like all vegetables are bad. We want to convince the world that all vegetables are bad because they are poisonous. And you have two options, two routes that you can go through to promote this idea. First option, you can go the more corporate route, go to government events, run internet ads, have signboard and billboards all over the place protesting that yes, all vegetables are bad, people to stop eating vegetables and those things. Or you could go the second route by stylishly sneaking your message into entertainment. So an example of this would be like having a movie where Spider-Man eats a broccoli, and you know, after he eats broccoli, he gets sick, starts vomiting all over the place, and you know, a doctor comes in, check him, and doctor just goes, Peter Parker, I'm sorry, but the broccoli does destroy one of your kidneys. And Spider-Man just goes like, I would never eat a vegetable again. Something like that. I know it's cringe, but I believe you get the point. So which one do you think would reach the most people? So this is very interesting. Even when I thought about it, I just went like, wow, because we can kind of see that entertainment is probably the best way to promote a message, whether it is a negative message or a positive message. Sure, you can go the corporate route of, you know, going to all the government meetings, having signboard and protesting all day. I'll be kind of honest with you, no one really cares. Like, sure, you will reach some people, but not as much as entertainment, because, you know, entertainment is just way more fun, it's way more engaging, it's less preachy, it's less wordy, and it catches us off when we have the least guard. So basically when we're just chilling and eating chips and Netflix. I mean, who even watches the news these days? And this is one of the reasons why when, you know, gamers complain about woke, DEI, sweet baby, I don't necessarily think that it's a bad thing. Like, I don't necessarily agree with everything that they're doing, but I mean, them wanting to promote African culture and stories, like, I don't mind. I don't have a problem with that. The problem I do have is when it is done in a forced, disrespectful, toxic manner, because I don't believe that to promote one culture or like a marginalized group, one culture has to be disrespected in the process. So I don't believe that one culture or people has to be pulled down and set apart just to promote your quote-unquote positive ideologies. So did Ubisoft do this? Did Ubisoft promote black culture and stories in a toxic, disrespectful manner? Now, before I go into the three evidences, I just want to clarify that I am only talking about Yasuke being a black samurai in an Assassin's Creed game. So I'm not talking about the other things Ubisoft did with the game. I'm not talking about the buying isn't owning. I'm not talking about the price of the game. I'm not talking about the gaze. I'm not talking about the half-story gate incidents. I'm not talking about the use of the Japanese shrine without permission. I'm not talking about the no gameplay before you pre-order. I think you get the point. I'm only playing devil's advocate, arguing that Yasuke is indeed the best character choice by Ubisoft. So let's start with the first evidence, the historical facts about Yasuke. So I want to show you this painting, this ancient Japanese painting. Just tell me what you see. So as we can clearly see, we can see a black man sumo wrestling a Japanese in the presence of other samurais. This painting was drawn in 1605. Now, sure, you can put it out there that, you know, we don't necessarily know if this is Yasuke because the name was never stated, but at least we can kind of affirm that realistically there was a black man in feudal Japan. And there's more. We also have one of the most notable sources about Yasuke. That's a historical book written by Otaguichi. And you know, this guy isn't just some random guy or historian. He was actually a servant for Lord Oda Nobunaga. Lord Oda Nobunaga is basically one of the greatest Japanese warlords in the 16th century. And this guy was a servant to Lord Oda Nobunaga. And he wrote this historical account after the death of Oda Nobunaga. So if there's anybody we should listen to, it's clearly this guy. And he clearly wrote about Yasuke. As you can see here, it says that the young black man was given a stipend. Stipend is basically like salary in that time. All samurais and a salary. His name was Yasuke and he was given a sword and private residence. This is interesting because he was given a sword. Was he a samurai? Let's keep going. The third source we have, and this is where the heat begins, is the English Wikipedia page. The English Wikipedia page says that Yasuke was a samurai. Or rather, they changed it to say that he was a samurai because, you know, after Ubisoft released the announcement about the character choice, the Wikipedia page has just been going through like a massive war zone with people changing history. So the old English Wikipedia page says that Yasuke was just a retainer. And fifth, because yet again the battle continues, the old Japanese Wikipedia page, because they also changed it after Ubisoft announcement, says that Yasuke was a bushi. Now I'm going to explain what all this word means. What does the word retainer mean? What does the word bushi mean? And what does the word samurai actually mean? Finally, I'm going to debunk the greatest myth about samurais, that all samurais are warriors, when in reality not all samurais are actually warriors. So first, we have the word retainer. A retainer is basically a servant who serves a lord. This lord can be pretty much anybody. It can be Lord Oda Nobunaga, it can be Lord Tokugawa Tokugawa Ieyasu, any lord. And the job of a retainer can be basically anything. So you could be a cook, you could be a weapon bearer, you could be a bushi, a warrior, you could also be a samurai. And it says here that Yasuke was a weapon bearer. A weapon bearer is basically somebody who carries the weapons and armor of a samurai. Second, we have the word bushi. The word bushi literally means warrior. So a bushi is a warrior, a trained fighter. This is where some people get it twisted up. A warrior doesn't necessarily mean samurai. The word bushi is basically just an umbrella term for anyone who is a military person who fights, that is a trained fighter, not necessarily a samurai. Now a samurai is an elite class bushi or elite warrior. So basically all samurais are bushis, but not all bushis are samurais. It's similar to how we have regular swordmen and a knight. So even though yes, a regular swordman and a knight are both swordmen because they both use the sword to fight, a knight is still of way higher rank than just a regular swordman. And this is basically what a samurai is. A samurai is a noble, high rank bushi or warrior most of the time. And this is where the greatest myth about samurai come in, that all samurais are warriors. Do you remember the guy I mentioned, William Adams, that was the first Englishman to become a samurai, that he wasn't a warrior? Yes, that's because of William Adams was actually just a ship builder, very good at navigation and a trader. And the lord at that time, Lord Tokugawa Ieyasu, so that this guy is very competent at shipbuilding and navigation, and he decided to give him the title of samurai. And this isn't out of place at all, because the word samurai is not just elite class warrior. It's a way more broader term than that. Basically, the word samurai is also a social class, a social status at that time in feudal Japan. So because of its a social status, many people were able to earn the title of samurai by just being given birth to by another samurai. Think of it like a surname that can be given out to other people but can also be earned by birth. But that doesn't make you automatically a warrior just because of you were given birth to by a samurai. And this is somehow similar to William Adams. Yes, William Adams did earn his title of samurai. It's not like he was given birth to by another samurai. He played more of an advisory role to Lord Tokugawa Ieyasu. So technically he was actually a warrior, because a warrior is basically just like a military personnel, and William Adams did become a military personnel when he was given the title of samurai, but he wasn't like that traditional sense of warrior of kitana and all those things. This basically means that Yasuke could technically have become a samurai without necessarily being like this strong Japanese warrior in that time, as Ubisoft is trying to portray them in AC Shadows. This is interesting because the current Japanese and English Wikipedia page says that there were rumors that Lord Oda Nobunaga would make Yasuke a tono. Now the word tono literally means lord, and it doesn't mean that like you're a lord, king, samurai or nobility. It's just a way of showing respect. So imagine if your class teacher name was Johnson. Obviously when you're calling him, you call him Mr. Johnson. You calling him Mr. Johnson, the Mr. there does not necessarily mean he's a king or a samurai or like one lord over you. It's just a way of you showing respect, and this is exactly how the word tono works. The reason why this is relevant is because even if we assume that Yasuke is not a samurai, realistically we can still kind of see that he was most likely a respected person, because obviously no one is even thinking of having rumors or calling just a mere servant a lord. So now for the final answer, was Yasuke a samurai? Was he given the title of samurai just like William Adams? And the answer is we don't know. Like, that's not the truth. We just don't know, because it was never written explicitly, like straight there, that Yasuke was given the title of samurai, unlike William Adams, which we do have proof that he was given the title of samurai. And if you don't want to take it from me, Ouch. There is a Japanese historian saying the exact same thing.
安家を侍と定義づけるだけの資料は残されていない。
And that's basically why the war that is currently going on the English Wikipedia page, people trying to change history to say that Yasuke was a samurai when in reality we don't really have evidence, except if these people have like a PhD in Japanese history and some solid evidence. This is kind of in the spectrum of toxic positivity, because I get what you're trying to do. Like, what you're trying to do is good, you know, trying to make sure that African stories are not covered up and they get the publicity they deserve. But if you're doing it like this with no proof, no evidence, then you're basically just being deceitful and manipulative. But was this Ubisoft's fault? So even though, yes, maybe Ubisoft did throw some fuel into the fire by using this character, I mean, at the end of the day, as long as Ubisoft did not explicitly state it there that Yasuke was a samurai, then I guess it's not their responsibility, because it's similar to just how when us were promoting our idea of all vegetables are bad. So let's say one guy watched that movie and, you know, immediately after he sees it, he carries a machine gun and, you know, starts unaliving anybody that he sees with a vegetable. Like, bro, I didn't tell you to do that though. Like, I did not tell you in the film that you should go and be shooting people that you see with a vegetable. Because at the end of the day, let's kind of just face it, this game is an historical fiction, not an historical simulation. So even though, yes, it does have some real things based on historical setting, based on real history, it's still a fiction. It's still something made up. It's still something thought of about somebody in this abstract world. And this is basically how all Assassin's Creed game has been. So, you know, we have Odyssey with fictional Greek character set in ancient Greek. We have Origins with fictional Egyptian characters set in Egypt. We have Brotherhood with fictional Italian character set in Italy. We have Valhalla with fictional European characters set in Europe. Then now we have AC Shadows with an African character set in Japan. Well, one Asian and one African. And this is why I would say that something is fishy about this game. Not because we have a black man in feudal Japan, but because we have a samurai in an Assassin's Creed game. A game supposedly about stealth. And one thing we know about samurais is they don't like stealth. Like, these people literally have a Bushido code, which means the way of the warrior. So they don't like stealth. They see assassination as cowardice. They don't do pakawa, because trust me, no one is doing pakawa in this heavy armor. Why is there a samurai in a game of stealth? And you know, this is even why when you play Yasuke, it doesn't feel like an Assassin's Creed game at all. It almost feels like you're playing like a watered down version of Lord of the Rings or Ghost of Tsushima. I mean, this guy can't even roll over on the floor like Naoe, the actual assassin in the game, because he's a samurai. Like, these people wear heavy armor, they walk with pride, they die with honor. Why is there a samurai in an Assassin's Creed game? And I think I know the reason. Because Assassin's Creed is not a game of stealth, or at least not anymore. And this is where the second evidence comes in. Because if we analyze the previous Assassin's Creed game, we can see that yes, even though the series did start with you with the guy in white hoodie always in the shadows, the game is no longer that. It eventually evolved to be an open world action adventure RPG game. I'll be honest with you, I know I'm supposed to be playing devil's advocate here, but this really annoyed me, because when I was researching this, I was doing it to support gamers. Yes, we gamers, that Ubisoft actually made the worst decision. But when I saw the gameplay of Odyssey, yeah, it just came clear to me that this was no longer the Assassin's Creed game I played when I was young. It was more of an action story based game with stealth just being a feature in the game rather than the core mechanic. And this goes same for Origins, Valhalla, and now AC Shadows. Okay, but sure, even if we agree that it's an action story based game, why Yasuke? Out of the thousands of other samurais they could have chosen, they could have gone for like Miyamoto Musashi, Saito Hajime. Why Yasuke? And yes, you are probably right that it's most likely because of that they chose Yasuke. But is that bad? Because just like how we promoted our big ideology that all vegetables are bad using Spider-Man, is it really that bad, as long as it's not done in a disrespectful, toxic manner? And we can see that Yasuke did exist. There is a good chance that he was a samurai, or at least somebody respected. This is an action adventure game, not a game of stealth. Ubisoft main target audience is most likely the West, because the US and the UK is one of their highest paying customers, and we know that Yasuke is more popular in the West than in Japan. Where is the woke in this? But that doesn't mean you have to like this character. That doesn't mean you're racist if you don't like this character. For example, I played Horizon, and in my opinion, I would say that Aloy is one of the best characters in gaming history. But still, I kind of preferred Silence more, because it just felt more interesting and relatable to me. But you know, that doesn't necessarily mean that Aloy is a terrible character. And I think this goes same for Yasuke. At the end of the day, it's still a subjective creative choice that would resonate with some and not resonate with some. But there is something that is still fishy about this game, and that's the reviews. Because even after all the controversies and disapprovals from gamers, the game still has a very positive review on Steam and Epic Games. So I decided to dig into the comments and the reviews, and what I saw is that yeah, people are complaining, but not about Yasuke. When I check the comments, it seems like most people are actually just complaining about what Ubisoft did with the game. So things like microtransactions, being unable to play the game offline because of Ubisoft Connect issues, despite the fact that they claimed that the game will be able to be played offline. And the most common comments that I saw that almost everyone is complaining about the game is that the game is flat and lifeless. There is one interesting comment that I saw that sums everything up. Not as bad as everyone is saying it is, not as great as everyone is saying it is. If you got the money to spare, buy it. If you don't got the money to spare, skip it. And I think this makes a lot of sense, because at the end of the day, I think most people just want a great story, a fun gameplay, and something that feels fresh. So the complaints people are making about the game is actually very valid, because it seems like this time Ubisoft just decided to play it safe and just follow what they already know has proven to work, probably to reduce the risks of the game flopping. And I guess this is why the gaming industry is currently just filled with like swamp of slops, remakes, spin-offs, and I think that's a fair point. But is that Yasuke fault? I don't think that's Yasuke fault. Although this is where I'm going to shoot myself in the leg. So I'm going to ask myself one question as an African game developer, and is this: what if we had an Assassin's Creed game set in Africa but the main character was Japanese? The same exact situation but just in reverse. I'll be honest with you, as an African game developer, I'll be pissed as heck, because it will feel so out of place and like a disrespect to my culture. And this is where all my devil's advocates argument falls apart, because since I cannot accept it in reverse, then why do I only accept it when it favors me? And that's a very, very solid argument. Okay, why don't we do something instead? What if we had an Assassin's Creed game set in Africa, but we had one African protagonist and one Japanese protagonist? And I think I'll be way more on board with that, especially if the Japanese protagonist is like a real historical figure who lived in Africa, because it will feel less out of place and less of a mismatch. I would still raise eyebrows at it, but it's definitely more acceptable. So why don't we conclude with this instead? Let's say that Yasuke is not the worst character in gaming history, but also not the best.